Part 2 of Chapter 16. Here we're going to talk about the eukaryotes. In fact, from here on out, we're going to be talking about the eukaryotes. But this chapter includes the eukaryotes that we call protists. Now, again, the domain eukarya includes everything we call protists, but also includes the fungi, the plants, and the animals. Now, in section 13, it asks basically what is a protist. Now, in older taxonomy, they were all grouped together and called the kingdom Protista. That's obsolete. It's not covered anymore. It's a diverse group inhabiting or comprising as many as 6 to 9 kingdoms, depending upon how the taxonomy gets worked out on that. Now, the major sections discuss the major groups of protists. Now, but for our practical purposes, a protist includes protozoans, algae, slime molds, and water molds. Now, the word protozoan basically means anything that's a eukaryote that is a single-celled organism but isn't photosynthetic, whereas an algae is photosynthetic but isn't a plant or a prokaryote, and that's just what the words mean. Now, there's a large group of protists called the chromalvulates. They include the diatoms, dinoflagellates, brown algae, water molds, ciliates, and zooflagellates. The diatoms, as you learn in lab, are single-celled. They live in the ocean and in freshwater, very abundant as phytoplankton, so they're important in aquatic food chains. They have little shells or skeletons of silica that, when they die, they sink and form the diatomaceous earth that's useful in commercial applications. Dinoflagellates are also important as phytoplankton, but some of them cause red tide, and some of them are beneficial for coral reefs, being a symbiosis to coral. Brown algae are multicellular. They're the phaeophyta. They live in the ocean. Kelp and sargassum are examples of brown algae. Water molds usually live in fresh water or in moist dirt. Some of them decompose things in water just like molds would. Some of them are plant parasites, such as the one that caused the Irish potato famine. Ciliates are little protozoans that move using cilia, and zooflagellates are basically little organisms that use flagella to swim around with, and some of them cause disease. Now, the zooflagellates include the plasmodial parasite, which causes malaria, which is carried by a bite of a mosquito. Now, believe it or not, they're all somewhat related to each other, but you've got algae here, protozoans here, disease-causing things in various places. They're kind of all together. Now, in section 17, it is covering a group of protozoans called the rhizarians. Now, the book refers to them as amoebas. They're not amoebas, okay? They used to be considered amoebas because, like the amoebas, they also use pseudopodia, but they have pointy, spiky pseudopodia. Now, both these groups live in the ocean. They're very common in the ocean as zooplankton. The forams are made of little calcium skeletons or shells. The radiolarians have little silicon shells. Now, foraminiferans are very, very common in marine sediments. Their little shells are very common in marine sediments, and they have a very, very rich and informative fossil record. The next group are the excavata. They include the harmless photosynthetic euglena, but also include some not so harmless protozoal parasites, such as trichomonas, which causes vaginal protozoal infection, and trypanosoma, which causes African sleeping sickness, and a few others too. All these details are in your notes, by the way. Finally, with section 19, we do get to protists with lobe-like pseudopodia, which includes the amoebas, which are single-celled, and the slime molds, which go through a single-celled, multi-celled life cycle. Slime molds are found in dirt, underneath rotting wood. There's a picture of one in your book. Maybe you've seen these if you've turned over enough rotting logs. Section 20 discusses algae groups. Now, the red algae are rhodophyta, and the green algae are chlorophyta. Red algae live in the ocean, and they're bright red. The green algae are the closest relatives to the true plants. They have the same green photosynthetic pigments as true plants, but they are single-celled, colonial and multicellular, and they can be found in fresh and salt water. And that's a conclusion of our review of Chapter 16.